We're talking about middle school first, and then what kind of.
Buddy, I kid you not. Like from middle school on, I would get home from the bus. I would like put my gym clothes either in my bag, like the top of my bag at the end of the day, like I'd prep them, or I'd put them at the door. And I kid you not, I'd change in and out of my like school clothes to my gym clothes, which was just like basketball shorts usually, in like under 10 seconds. Like I remember my neighbors were always alarmed. So it was always like my younger brother Mason and I, and then two neighbors down the street, Alex and Trevor, that would come up, and then sometimes they'd have friends over, and our stepbrother John might be over, and we play we call it tips in my neighborhood, but most people know it by 21, the basketball game. We play it for like 3 to 5 hours straight, like so long that the back of our shirts would be like 100% drenched. You'd have to wring them out. We would just go back and forth in the house, like running in the house, like ripping the door off its hinges to like fill up our water or juice. Man, we're like juice people. We drank like copious amounts of juice. Like I honestly think that like a quarter of my DNA is like the ocean spray, you know? Like
For me, it would be like Kool-Aid, because I'm pretty sure I digested way more Kool-Aid than juice.
I was about to say, like the Kool-Aid man from the Dane Cook joke is just like bust through the side of my house at one point and just be like, oh yeah. But man, we were disgusting children because we would just be covered in sweat but covered in dirt, because like we would inevitably, like towards the end, we'd probably get grouchy or whatever, so we'd like start getting like all and one on you. We would like trip you and stuff like that, so you'd be covered filthy in dirt. And I remember like our mother would call us in for like, you know, dinner or whatever, so we'd run in, eat. Like the neighbors, they'd be like, all right, we're gonna run down. They'd run down, they would like fill up a bowl, like I kid you not, like a massive bowl like this big, full of like Cinnamon Toast Crunch or whatever the cereal of the week is, and just like mow the whole thing, like with like a half a gallon of milk. Like I kid you not, that was their dinner. And then they'd run back up and we would play for like another couple hours until it was too dark and like people, like the neighbors, started to like call the police on us. Yeah, that was pretty much my childhood. So thank goodness for all that physical activity, because before we talked about that, Gainz Nation, we were talking about how poor our childhood diets were. So
well, you just admitted to everybody you were on the juice.
Man, I was on the juice. That ocean spray cran grape, like couldn't get enough of it. I could not get enough of it.
Were you just scared of the UTIs you'd get from holding your bladder? That's why you drank so much cranberry juice?
Allegedly. It was so funny, man. Like I remember my stepdad, he was infamous for like trying to like do his best to tuck food away so that like we wouldn't eat it all, because it was like we were on the seafood diet, like we would see it and we eat it. Like my brother and I were joking the other day, we would get like 3 bags of Doritos, for example, and it gone. Like I would crush a bag, my stepbrother would crush a bag, and my brother would crush a bag in one meal, like in 15 minutes, like during lunch. And then we'd still have like, you know, a sandwich or like, you know, pizza or whatever else. Oh man, it was horrible. It was horrible. That's probably like 2,800 calories in one bag or something ridiculous. And we probably burned a majority of it off. We were like ridiculously active. Sometimes for like, you know, 12 hours a day. It was gross. I don't know how I did it. Now I think about it, I'm just tired. Like I want to take a nap now.
You know what? We should have a podcast about like our kids more energized now, or like just childhood in general, about like the nutrition side of things and like the training and the activities, because yeah, you're right, like, you know, and that's like one of my goals is as like a new father and whatnot, is try to eliminate like that seafood diet, and hopefully like try to introduce like more meals instead of snacks. I wasn't gonna bring it up but you mentioned it. Because I had this idea, not like I have not like thought about this before. We were having dinner yesterday, and I was talking to Sam about like, what if you like, instead of like, and I'm glad you brought Doritos up, because I brought up Doritos too. Is like, what, instead of like having Doritos on hand, I found this like flaming hot chickpea recipe, like roasted chickpeas. And like, you know, if you made shit like that, like, and you had that around instead of Doritos, like granted, like yeah, you can eat enough chickpeas where it's like, holy cow, like dude, you're probably you might gain weight, right? But like but also it might be hard because of like the fibrous content and the protein content, where it's like you might be able to get through like half of a can, and you're like, oh, I can't eat anymore because I'm so full. But like, if you had like that's like, see, the thing is like Sam's, and not that she's like overweight or anything, but like, like I'm trying to, because she's like a big snacker, and I'm trying to find all these like different like substitutes where if she feels like the needs a snack, like why don't we eat something like that? So we just tried that yesterday, because we were making a homemade Big Mac salad, which is so good. And then we did like some homemade baked fries on the side. But like while we were waiting, I just made like that flaming hot chickpea appetizer, and it was pretty good. It just, I've eaten a lot of hummus in my life, where like I love chickpeas already, so I knew I was gonna like it coming into it, because a lot of people sometimes don't eat that kind of things, like chickpeas. Like I don't feel like a lot of American diets like revolve around. It's like more of like a Middle Eastern, like a diet, like a Mediterranean diet style. But it was pretty good. So yeah, I wanted to share that with you guys.
Nice.
What were you gonna say to something?
No, I love it. That's actually super creative. What was the texture of it? Was it still like quite moist, or was it like airy and crunchy?
So it was both. So
Yeah.
like some of them were like kind of like a moist crunch, and I think I just had to dry them out a little bit more, because it's like pumpkin seeds. Like if you ever roast pumpkin seeds and they're still kind of moist, they don't really come like crispy like pumpkin seeds you buy, like those David brands of pumpkin seeds, where like they like crunch every time. So I think the drying out process needs some more work. So yeah, but no, dude, it was good, man. You could eat chickpeas, right?
Yeah.
Yeah, dude, it's easy. All you had to do is just like rinse them, and then I would suggest dry them, and then you just toss them in like she did like nutritional yeast. I just got like cheddar cheese popcorn seasoning. Like you get more protein, and it has like that cheese flavor to nutritional yeast, but it's like $6, and like the popcorn cheese flavoring was like $2. So I was like, yeah, I'm not gonna pay $4 more. And then like you do like smoked paprika, like cayenne, some salt and garlic, and then you just mix it in. You just throw it in the oven. So it's like pretty easy. Um, and it takes like 45 minutes to an hour on like 350. We did like 45 minutes, but like I think next time we're gonna do like an hour, just to get them a little bit more crispier. But really good, man. Like we had the rest of them or some of them for lunch, and I was just like, "Ooh, this is really nice. Like I like that." Um,
They were
what?
canned. Did you soak dry beans overnight?
What'd you say?
Were they canned beans, or did you soak them overnight?
They were canned beans, unfortunately. But yeah, I'll have to get some like raw beans, or the chickpeas that are raw, and then soak them like that. You know, I it's like a love hate relationships. Like, yeah, you shouldn't eat a lot of canned foods, but we don't really typically eat canned foods besides like tuna. So like that's like, if I know a lot of people probably eat like, canned beans all the time, or like canned soups, and like canned tomatoes where you could just get fresh ones. We don't really do that. We don't really eat a lot of canned stuff besides tuna. So get off my back, Robin. I'm just messing with you, by the way. There was one more thing before we get into, man. We're not gonna man, the time frame, man. I swear. Maybe we'll just go into your topic, because I do have one more thing, and then I don't know if we could talk about it next week or maybe later this week. But I did want to mention that I did start recording. I don't know if you saw the post, Roman, but I posted for Gainz Nation, if you're listening to this. Um, and if you didn't see that post, I'll just mention it again. But I want to start doing like a monthly or bi-monthly, depending on how busy I am, like a book club. So I just posted today what the book was that I've been listening to on audiobook. Dr. Tyler Saunders, gave me the recommendation. It's the Testosterone Optimization Therapy Bible, TOT Bible. by Jay Campbell. So I just started recording in the background of doing this podcast today. So I started recording a review. I'll probably just re- release it on YouTube. I don't know about the audio channels, but I got some interest in it, and I thought it'd be good to like kind of just promote some health and fitness books. And like I said in the review, is like I don't buy these books personally unless I really like them. I rent them from the library, and I also have a Spotify Premium account. So I can either listen or just go to the library and rent the book. So hopefully, like I could help people kind of understand. And if Roman, you want to join into, you're more than welcome to. But like, just give some overview on some books, our thoughts from the Gainz Nation, and give someone some more ammunition from Gainz podcast. So right now, I think I'm just gonna release it on YouTube, and then do like some shorts from it, and then if people want to see more, I don't know, maybe make it a bigger thing. But right now, I'm just trying to gauge interest. So if you guys are interested, comment below, message us, let us know what you think. Because I already read this. Like I already got a books highlight on Instagram, so it's like if I'm reading it, and if you guys want to hear us talk about it, then that's like it's like pretty simple because we're already doing that stuff. So it's like I just want to take it a step further and see if like the content would help people.
Nice. So. That's an amazing idea. Thank you.
So Roman, did you want to chat about, because I don't think we're gonna be able to get into the meats and potatoes like what I was saying before this call. What did you want to go on?
Oh, I was wondering, because I am interested, and I don't know if I'm gonna get the thing watching the 4-year-old. So we could get a live reaction from me if you wanted to just kind of debrief the lengthy article you read.
Yeah, it's kind of sad, and like I don't know, like I guess at the end we'll kind of get your opinion, because you see the thing at the end of the day. So there was a New York Times article. One of his ex-girlfriends, which is not named, her name is Sarah. That's not a real name. She released pretty much a pretty detailed timeline and history of like dating Andrew Huberman. And before I like kind of talk about it, I guess, unfortunately, fortunately, we're not in their lives. A lot of people will probably kind of say like, yeah, it could discredit his information. But you got to look on the other side. Like, he might have issues that he's working on, or, it could be wrong. It could be false. A lot of the stuff they were putting in there, he didn't comment on anything, but he had a spokesperson do that. You must have to be pretty famous to have some spokesperson to give you your answers, because like I wish I could be like, Robin, can you answer all those questions on my behalf instead of me answering all those questions? But they pretty much denied like all the claims in there. So I wanted to say that. Also, too, like if you read it, I think the guy still has some intelligent things to say. He interviews fairly well, in my opinion, and he brings like really good content. So it's kind of hard, because it's like I've been listening to him since like pretty much day one. Like I think before he even got like very popular, before he was on Joe Rogan, before he was doing shows at Chicago Theater. So it is kind of hard hearing that stuff. And also, before I kind of get into the meat and potatoes, when he did that lecture at the Chicago Theater live, he did mention of how crappy of a childhood he had. So a lot of that stuff does affect people differently, and it affects relationships, right? Not only like sexual relationships, like like partner relationships, like friend relationships, like things like that. It'll affect all that other stuff. Not that I am a psychiatrist by all means, right? Like this is just generally speaking, like this should be maybe understood from the general population. Um, but pretty much Sarah pretty much had this correlation trying to give an understanding of like the dating situation when they started dating. And everything was good early on, everything was good. But she in the beginning, she kind of goes off on saying like he kind of disappears on you. Mentions like like the first Thanksgiving where he was going to meet some of her family, and she had I think one or two kids prior to the relationship, and they were getting serious, and he pretty much didn't show up. And then after that portion of the Thanksgiving, there was this. I forgot the. Do you know the one person that he didn't show up to? There was another. There was a big name.
The guy that he was supposed to go camping with or whatever.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, there was some gentleman, and I think it was like a bigger name, and I think they actually give the real name. And I forgot who it was, um, but they were supposed to go camping. They were supposed to do things, and he shows up late, like by like hours, and then he so supposedly like in the beginning it's just like, hey, Andrew Huberman, just he's just not there for you, right? Like the consensus is like, okay, like yeah, this may be important to you, but like to him, like if he can maybe work more or study more to like her knowledge, right? Study more, do more research, then he might be doing that instead. Um, and then it kind of goes into like, like he always like kind of dived into her past a lot, like making mistakes, like all this stuff, and a lot of people, and I think human nature in general, right? Like I'll make an opinion is like we all kind of make mistakes in the past, no matter what. Like I can tell you right now, like all the mistakes I made, hopefully like made me a better person today. So like nothing's like perfect to me being almost 30 now, right? I'll be 30 on Monday. But like, like stuff like that is like the way the human grows. Like I think the human body will grow, right? So that's like one aspect of it. And then eventually, furthermore, there was like these sketchy times where like he would be kind of just like on his phone texting, or he would she would see like messages or like people liking his Instagram photos, and it was like the same girl like every other photo or every photo. So she actually eventually sees like she was supposed to go to his house in California, and she sees a girl sitting on his couch, and like kind of confronted, like, yeah, okay, so he's cheating on me. So long story short, what's up?
What year was that?
I think it was like 2021, and I think they were dating since like 2019.
Yeah. Because
But it'll kind. Go ahead.
I don't. Sorry for interrupting. I don't think I've gotten this far in the article, but I did recall somewhere in the article. So if you read it, check us on this. But I think according to Sarah, she said that like in her mind they're exclusive since 2018. But I think
Yeah.
the spokesperson for Andrew Huberman, I think he said that they're kind of like talking to each other, but they didn't have like the exclusivity conversation until 2021. But
Yeah.
I didn't get that far, so I don't know if that was like after the point where he said like, hey, yeah, like I want to be exclusive with you, so-called like Sarah, and he sees the other person. So sorry, go on.
And that's funny you mentioned that. That's the only thing the spokesperson answered, by the way. So I know you didn't read the whole thing, but that is literally the only thing he or she answered. And they denied the rest. So I think that was the only, because there was like, like 6 or 7 more of those, like, parentheses where it's like, hey, spokesperson of Andrew Huberman denies this claim. So furthermore, like, she ends up finding who that person was that was sitting on his couch. And it's like crazy. I'm like, how the hell do you do that? California's huge, huge, like Donald Trump would say. And she like randomly DMs, like finds her, like, got a good description of seeing her on the couch, enough to like DM her and be like, hey, were you that girl on the couch? So they get together, and this girl personally didn't understand or know that Andrew was dating Sarah in the beginning. So that could be it. I mean, in the dating scene today, like you never know. Like you never know if the person's either like talking to someone or dating someone. Like that's just it's hard. It's like when you're dating someone, it's like, okay, well, I found you on a dating app. Like, how many other guys or girls did you find on this dating app too? And are you talking to them? It's like, some people don't bring that up in conversation. you know, so, or some people don't stop at the one. So it's like, okay, kind of makes sense. Like, well, it's not her fault, right? It's definitely not her fault. So pretty much this one girl like sits her down and like pretty much like Sarah doesn't want anything to do with Andrew Huberman. She was just like in love with the guy. They so at one point like supposedly like this girl was like a strong independent woman, but like she's at Andrew Huberman's like cooking and cleaning for him, and like the family and friends would be like, Sarah doesn't do this. Like Sarah's like, you know, she's this badass woman that like, you know, she doesn't take crap from anyone. You know, she'll smoke her stogie anywhere she wants, like Arnold Schwarzenegger. What? No, I'm just kidding. That's my take. That's my joke. But anyways, they get together. You know, that's like her like you know person to help her because like in a way she was like in love with Andrea Huberman. Like she was instead of trying to text him, she would text her because she was trying to get away from that feeling and those emotions. And like I'll kind of save the details because there is like another piece at the end that I want to talk about too. But like the two girls find four other girls that were dating and seeing Andrew Human from like that 2019 to 2022, 2023 time frame, and they actually all get in touch with each other. So all six women that Andrew Huberman supposedly were seeing at the in those timelines, and they were putting timelines together. Like she goes, "Hey, when we went to Texas, when I went and left, like the other woman was like there at the hotel or something like that." So it's like these people were actually lining up texts, like you know, like they would look and you know he would send a picture to one of them in the morning, and then one or two other women had the same picture of Andrew Huberman. Um, so uh, lo and behold, there's like a timeline, and they're getting together, and they're like, you know, they make like a powwow, and supposedly like it just like kind of messed up, but like that's unfortunately the dating scene. Like, you know, you never know who's seeing who, but like also too, that's like crazy. To think about and to like kind of put in the back of your head where it's like, wow, Sarah actually lived with him, and they did mention she lived with him at one point in California, and this was going on with the other women. So I give it to her. At least she was like the one living with him and being a part of his life. But like the other people, it's like holy cow, like that's so crazy to be able to handle all that and to be able to you know powwow and like get every information together. But like I said in the beginning, all the spokesperson would deny pretty much all those claims. They said Sarah also mentioned like Andrew Huberman is like really aggressive to the point where like there'd be times where he was yelling for like hours at her. So supposedly some abusive relationship things were going on with like verbal abuse. Um, and I don't think nothing physical was said, so no physical abuse. But it looks like there would be times where like he would be nowhere to be found, and then you know he would argue for hours, and then the last piece, because I want to get your opinion on everything too, Roman, and I want to stop talking so I can drink some water. But the last piece was um, they talked about like the AG1, yeah, the AG1, like the AG1 sponsorship, right? And I saw it live at the Chicago Theater. Like they had like he had like 20 people from AG1 passing out samples. Um, but like they talked about how like, hey, he always like says the podcast is free information, yada yada yada. But like, you know, he sponsors AG1, where like Roman will definitely fight you on this to the day he dies. It's like, you know, just because you take AG1 doesn't mean like your whole diet is like whole, right? And a lot of the times, like him and Joe Rogan, they say AG1 is gonna like solve your micronutrients intake, and it's most likely not. Like we know that like if you dive into all those micronutrients, you're still missing, you know, quite a bit when it comes to the other micronutrients in your diet. So they talk about that, and the last piece before I let you go and talk is they touch about the other part of like the free podcast and like how he accepts donations. The address of the lab that he says that he's a part of in Stanford, they noted that it's like a 3 or 4 hour drive from his house. They also noted like that lab is like barely used and it's like barely an address. So another portion at the end, they didn't really get too deep into it because I don't know if it's like conspiracy at that point at the end, but like they were pretty much saying like all you people have probably donated tons of money to like Stanford labs, Stanford research, or even Andrew Huberman's research. Um, where is that money going to, right? Like when you donate to some charitable events, like you want to make sure, or charitable institutes, like you want to make sure your money's going to a well put organization. They're actually doing something with the charity. So I guess supposedly they're at the end, like they were doing some deep dive on like how it's like barely an address. Stanford barely uses it. Andrew Huberman's like 4 hours away. So how could he, how could he work at a lab that's 4 hours away? How could he teach and things like that? So, and I don't know if we mentioned, but yeah, it's like a 45-minute read, unless you're a faster reader than I am. But I was just like, holy cow, this is a long read. But yes, that's all I'm gonna say. And then yeah, go ahead, buddy.
I do wonder, so I want to say, like, first and foremost, like, if there's any, like, type of, like, sexual assault that occurred, that's, like, unequivocally wrong, and there should be, like, actions taken against Andrew Huberman. I'd say it kind of seems like a hit piece, to be quite honest with you.
Yeah.
I was not privy to any of these conversations, so if indeed he never did have like the exclusivity conversation with the quote unquote sick person, then like he's free to do whatever he wants to do and like see as many people as he wants to see. Now he did say that he wanted to be exclusive with Sarah and she agreed, and he agreed to be in that monogamous relationship, and then he stepped out. That's wrong if he did that. But if he explained like, hey, I'm polyamorous, like I'm polygamous, whatever, and she said like, that's fine, and then she kind of like reneged on that in the like later on, and that like resulted in them like having like arguments or like quote unquote fights and whatnot, then I really don't know what to say. Like if you have a conversation, you're open and honest with somebody. Like myself, I am monogamous. Like it's just my wife and I, and like we had that conversation pretty early on, and then like we dated and we like reaffirmed it like several times. But like if she had told me that like, hey, I like to see other people or whatnot, then if I continued to want to see her, then that would be something that I would be explicitly accepting because we had that conversation. So I'll just put that out there. The AG1 thing is like, man, I mean, if you're not getting it in, like I don't know too much about AG1. Like from the little that I have heard about it, I think it's a scam product, to be honest with you.
$70 a month.
Yeah, just try to have like some kale, just try and. My brother will wake up at like 4 a.m. and he'll just pound like a fistful of kale, and then like I kid you not, like my brother.
I hope he brushes his teeth afterwards. His breath must stink.
I love him. He might be a serial killer.
You heard it here, folks.
Just kidding, bro. But like I'm bad at it. Like and we talk about this on a day-to-day. Like my big thing is fruit. I love fruit, man. Like I probably have like 5 servings of fruit every day. Could I have more vegetables? Yeah, 100%. I should do the same thing. And sometimes I'll see him do it. I'm like, oh, this is disgusting. Like I want to make a salad, but I'm too lazy. It's too early in the morning. I have to like get to this, that, or another thing. And I'll do it. I'll just grab a fistful of kale, throw it back. I'm like, bro, you're a psycho. I don't know how you do it. The disappearing thing is weird. It's like a weird, I would say maybe like character flaw. But again, like I don't know. It seems like he's highly intelligent. But here's the thing that I want to caution our viewers to. Beware of false idols. And like not trying to be all like biblical or whatnot. But Lane Norton has called out Andrew Huberman on like multiple occasions when he talks about like exercise science and where he's wrong. And he's wrong often in spaces that he hasn't studied. The one thing that
which I think Huberman had him on because the fact that which is like good character, I guess, because the fact that you want to make sure he's honest.
Exactly. But from what I understand, that's exactly it. Like, I guess in defense of Andrew Huberman, he'll like admit when he's wrong, and I'll say like, "What? Well, this was my understanding." And like, I'm sure we've said a lot of stuff on this podcast that might not be like up to date or whatnot. I'm not like going through peering through the literature, but like I can tell you my direct experience. I can tell you like general like guidelines and principles that should be able to help you along like your physical fitness or health journey. So at the end of the day, like he's just a person, and he's a pretty smart guy, and he works really hard at what he does. He might have some like weird character flaws and whatnot. So definitely check it out. Let us know what you think about it. But yeah, I don't know. I probably won't invest any more time reading it, to be honest with you. Like I said, like it goes without saying, like if there's like sexual assault involved, like that's wrong, and he should face criminal charges. If he was like unfaithful, but he had a conversation like, hey, I'm like, I want to see other people, like I want to see you, but I also want to see other people. Like, I don't know what to say. Like, he was explicit about that. I wasn't privy to any of those conversations. So if he had that, then like, I do understand like the feelings and emotions of the other person, but also in the same token, by you like staying with that person, like you're accepting that they're doing that. And oftentimes I hear this time and time again in relationships that people say like, oh, I thought they would change. It's like, you can't expect somebody to change. Like, people are who they are. And if they want to change, like they may, but that's on them to make that decision. Like you can't force them to change. Yeah, that's kind of my hot take on it. Anything that was like off kilter that I brought out?
No, yeah, I was gonna say, you kind of, yeah, I mean, it's like one of those things. It's like, yeah, nothing with sexual assault or abuse or physical abuse or, assault. So it's like something like that. That's why I'm wondering why they kept their names all private, because the fact that, it kind of seems like maybe they would take legal justice, but like on what, so maybe there is more to it. Maybe not. But like, that's why I wanted to put it out there, because yesterday, because it came out like 2-3 days ago. I looked on YouTube and there was no information about it, no one talking about it. When you type it in, it's crazy. It's because, and I don't know if it's because Andrew Huberman's so damn big. Like, I typed it in YouTube, I found one video, and like one video on someone that's like gets millions of videos on YouTube every day. So it gets your tin foil hat out, and we're just like, who's blocking all these videos, right? Because like, in my opinion, that's why I texted Roman today. I said, Roman, I honestly kind of want to talk about this to see, or maybe people just read and just like, there's nothing really there. Like Roman is saying, like, there's nothing really there unless there is, and we just don't know it yet. So that's why I want to talk about it.
Yeah.
All right, y'all. Well, like, comment, subscribe. We'll see you guys in the next one. Peace.